And we are live. Hello, everybody. If you are watching this recording while I am waiting for people to join, my name is Bert S. Lechner. I am a cosmic horror author on the autism spectrum. And today, to celebrate having accomplished 666 posts on Instagram, I decided to do something fun today and read for you the live debut of a short cosmic horror story that I haven't published yet. This story is called He Wouldn't Say Its Name. It is, I would say, my newest short story. It is about 4,500 words, a little bit shorter than one of the first stories I wrote, Interstate. And this story will not be coming out for a while in published format, just simply because it's too short to sort of be a standalone, but not really, that's the only reason, really. I don't know why I was going for a second one there. But so starting up in about 3 minutes or so, I'm going to read you this story live as a debut. If you know anybody who you think would like to listen to some cosmic horror on this Monday morning, just give them a nudge and have them jump on in here. Nice to see some people jumping on already. Hello, everybody. If there's anything going on with my audio, just you can leave a comment and let me know. There's a good chance that my cat Juniper will say hello while I'm doing this live reading, as it is getting close to his dinner time, and he is quite ravenous. So we'll see what happens with that. And then the last thing before I go ahead and get started is I was running a giveaway over the past few days in preparation for this live reading. I have 5 winners who are each having won a signed copy of my collection of short occult cosmic horror stories, The Roots Grow Into the Earth. And so at the end of this live stream, I'll be announcing who won that giveaway. I think that's all I have for you. So we're getting close to the 4:00 p.m. point. So I'm going to go ahead and get started for you. So we shall begin. He Wouldn't Say Its Name. The notification on my phone caught me by surprise. You must come over. It's been ages. It was Adam's first text in months, a break in the long silence that had grown between us since I left on my vacation to Paris. How many messages had I sent him over the course of those months, messages that languished without a response? When he texted me, I had only just given up trying to reach out to him, had only just started weaning myself from the many daily scrolling sessions through my countless rows of unanswered messages. His message gave me mixed feelings. As glad as I was to hear from him, frustration, worry, and discontent festered in my heart. That not only would he disappear without any warning, but that he would return without any sort of answer to my catalogue of questions. I thought of replying with some questions, thought of asking him where he had been, why he'd stopped messaging, if it had been anything I said that split a wedge between us. But I feared any strong words, any pushing, would scare him away once more, and I'd lose my friend for good. So all I texted in return was, when? Tonight, if you can, by 4, Adam replied, in almost an instant. I don't know when I'll be able to meet after then. That text made me uneasy. In the past, it would have taken him many long-winded sentences, skirting around a suggestion before he made it. This message was too curt, too direct for him. What happened since we last talked, I wondered. But still, I was free that night, and I wasn't about to say no after so long an absence of contact. So I accepted, packed my overnight bag, and began the long walk. I took my time, enjoying the early spring chill. The leaves had not yet unfurled from their tight buds on the tree branches. The air had that crisp bite and the bitterness of rainwater-drenched earth. Early flowers peeked from the gardens as I passed, the first vibrant colors since the fall of last year. By 4, I arrived at high-story apartments. The building stood out against the skyline, a high-rise apartment complex 12 stories tall that dwarfed the buildings around it. A few of these complexes had sprouted over the past decade, built to accommodate the demand for lower-budget housing within the farthest reaches of the commuting radius of Manhattan. Twilight shadows painted the front of the building a soothing blue-gray hue, contrasting with the soft lights that glowed from the rectangle windows. "Just reached the building. Be there soon," I texted Adam, out of courtesy. And without waiting for a reply, I pushed open the doors to the lobby and made my way inside. Oh, God, the awful smell that assaulted me. That sour whiff of expired meat, that ferrous tang of dried blood. What shock and confusion must have plastered my face when my eyes fell on the gory heaps that lay piled at every doorstep. Pounds upon pounds of poultry and pork, whatever it seemed could be procured en masse from the local butchers. Unfamiliar, crude sigils painted with blood scowled from the doors. A choir of flies droned in my ears, a butcher's dirge. I thought of fleeing then and there, but morbid curiosity got the best of me. A terrible urge that seemed to impress upon me from outside my mind, a hunger for answers. What had happened since my last visit to turn this high-rise apartment complex into a slaughterhouse stocking room? My belly groaned with nausea at the squelch of my shoes against the blood-dampened carpet. By the time I had reached Adam's doorstep, I felt myself inches away from emptying my stomach all over his doormat. "Welcome. Please wipe your feet," the doormat read, the words in part obscured by blood and strips of flesh, as if mocking me. The sigils on Adam's door glared at me as I knocked, eerie swooping arcs of blood, crossed with immaculate straight lines. The way that blood dribbled from the shapes gave the impression of birds, their sanguine wings outstretched. Only a moment passed before Adam opened the door. He chuckled when he saw me, a familiar and unpleasant sound in that bloody hallway. "Welcome. Please come in. Mind your step. Pardon the mess." The serenity in his voice, the softness of his tone, sent the alarm bells ringing in my head. "You must expect we've gone crazy," he continued, his voice calm, his smile unnerving in its stillness as he waved me into his small apartment. "But I assure you, we all do this out of survival. I'll tell you everything. Come, settle in." The apartment had changed little since I saw it last. A single large room divided between a cozy kitchenette and a living area dominated by an opulent leather couch and felt chairs. At the far end of the room stood the window, overlooking the park beyond, letting in the setting sun's light. In the back right corner, a passage to the hallway that led to the bedroom and bathroom. Dried blood covered the floor in a mottled pattern of overlaid footprints, a garish contrast to the otherwise tidy space. I made my way to the couch, shaking, my stomach heaving, while he fixed us drinks. The stink of meat lingered in my nostrils, the savory perfume of potpourri and lavender oil unable to wash it away. My head reeled at Adam's normalcy. He shuffled in his kitchenette, filled with the glassware, the way he always had, unbothered by the abattoir that had popped up outside his door since the last time I visited. That whimsical, narrow smile he wore when he wasn't paying attention to his expressions chilled my heart. An unnatural idleness, an unnerving stillness, a sign of madness. The idea crossed my mind that, perhaps, he had invited me over to add to the gory pile in front of his home. "I'll admit," he said, "when I texted I forgot that I hadn't told you all of this. I had it in my head that you were here when it first happened and already knew. But I remember now that you were in Paris. I'm sorry I forgot, really. But it has, after all, been rather a harrowing time here, in the worst of ways, and the best of ways." He handed me the drink he had spent such care to prepare, an old-fashioned, complete with an ice cube that took up most of the tumbler, and a spiral of orange peel dangling from the rim. In the amber light, the whiskey took on a dark, bloody hue, its sickly sweet aroma doing my stomach no favors. I pried the ice cube from the glass and downed the drink in one gulp, the alcohol burn at least replacing my shock with some pain. Adam chuckled again, a dry, empty sound, and handed me his drink before he continued. It started maybe 2 months ago, as far as I remember. It was one of the tenants on the 12th floor. One day, out of the blue, the man just started placing fresh meat, fresh organs, out front of his apartment, as much as he could source from the butcher down the street. His neighbors reported him to the landlord, cleaned it up, admonished him, warned him that his actions would lead to eviction or even arrest. But as soon as the mess was cleaned, he'd have it right back up within a few hours. Fresh meat, fresh offal. That rumor piqued my curiosity. You know how much I am a sucker for macabre story. So I went up there to the 12th floor, found myself face to face with that gore pile, and I knocked on the door. I can assure you I had the same look on my face as you did when I greeted you today. That smell, it gets to you at first, that bloody sight. And then you get used to it, stock up on the incense, stop looking at the glistening red of the flesh. I caught the lie in that last part. That look in his eye at the mention of flesh, a distant, hungry look. A look that flayed my own skin as his sight glazed over me. I had to get up, put some distance between him and I. His window had a pleasant, wide shelf that on more than one occasion I had settled on to watch the world go by during my visits. I returned there as he talked, unwilling to take my eyes off him, but comforted by the idea of cars and pedestrians traveling the dusk-soaked streets and sidewalks behind me. He continued his story. I said to him, "What's the purpose of the meat?" "Protection," he told me. "Protection from what?" He wouldn't answer, no matter how I pried. He wouldn't say its name. But after talking for some time, he gave me some advice. "You seem like a nice sort," he told me. "You're the only one to come over, ask instead of complain or admonish or threaten. It's coming any day now. It's ravenous, ever ravenous, and if there's not meat at your door, it'll be you for its dinner. I'm going to tell you what to do." He guided me through the setting of the meat in the offal, showed me the symbols I had to paint on the door to let it know these were offerings. He showed me the signs that it was coming, the amassing of crows, the many motors over, the knocking at the window, the gifts at the doorstep, the sight of it in the trees in the park. How he knew all these things he wouldn't say, but I did as instructed, to the chagrin of my own neighbors. There was some infectious fear in the way he talked, the way he stared at me with this pity, this guilt, that convinced me that our lives were in jeopardy. I begged my neighbors to follow suit. Few listened. As the days passed after meeting the man upstairs, I started to see the signs myself. Adam trailed off, his gaze listless, staring past me out the window. I quivered, my spine tingling, the rabid sense that other eyes drilled into my back overwhelmed me. I turned to follow his gaze. Past the street, this lackadaisical traffic below, in the wide park, first spring leaves budding on the trees. I saw it. A figure in the canopy of a hoary elm, too large to be human. In the dusk, it took on the aspect of night, a shadow without someone to cast it. Its face defied the light, unseen in the waning sun. And yet I knew it saw me. "You see it too," said Adam, with what sounded like pride, relief, satisfaction. "What is it?" I asked. He wouldn't say its name. "Tonight's the night. I insist you stay here, my friend." "Stay?" I scoffed. "Adam, honestly, you're crazy if you think I'm going to stay here. What has happened to you? What is this thing? I demand you tell me." He wouldn't say its name. Listen, Adam whispered, drawing close. Under the sweet, malty scent of whiskey, I caught the sourness of expired meat, the dusty stench of moldy feathers. In the glint of the dying sunlight, I saw how long his teeth sat behind his lips. Please, listen to reason. I implore you to stay. When I saw the signs those many months ago, when it was time, you need to know. It came in the darkness past midnight. I saw it fly past my window on the call of crows. I heard the screams from the floors above as it plucked its choice meats. But all those who left meat by their door, it not only spared, it came to my bedside. It gave its thanks. It whispered its name in my ear. If you leave now, it will know. It will follow you. It's always hungry, always looking for new hunting grounds. Then why invite me in the first place, when you knew it was coming? You've doomed me. I cannot express the anger that burned in me at that moment. Trapped, as I was, the caged animal, damned to an awful fate, whether I fought, froze, or fled. It stared at the shadow in the park. It stared back, motionless. It's always expanding, I thought. It would have come to you one way or another. And without Adam's knowledge, you may have been its food without knowing the wiser. There was more than he told me, I know. In that cocktail of terrible emotions that racked my mind rose this cold dread. In his assurances I sensed an unspoken truth, one that lurked in his long teeth, his unsettling smile. He had brought me here for more than protection alone. That thing, that shadow, had done something to him, something he wanted me to experience. I attempted to interrogate him, to draw out more of the truth. Why have I not heard of this before now? I asked. How many times have I texted you these past months, checked in on you? Why has this thing not been on the primetime news? Why have you not reported it to the police? How many people died, Adam? Adam gave no answer. He dodged the question, twirling on his feet to the kitchenette, the agitated scuffle of his slippers whimpering against the hardwood floors. Dinner should be ready. I prepared that goulash you sent me the recipe for. I could get no more from him. When I left the shelf to sit at the table, I looked out the window once more and could no longer see the figure below. We ate in silence, or, moreover, I ate. Adam sat across from me, toying with the chunks of beef on his plate, miming bites. I chewed on the rich, hearty meat with a sense of trepidation and nervousness, less out of hunger, more out of a need to make myself look busy, and to give me something for me to focus on instead of that hungry look on Adam's face whenever our eyes met, that look of a predator considering whether something is worthy of being prey. Darkness pressed itself against the window. I had not often felt the constricting, oppressive atmosphere of claustrophobia in my life, but I felt it then. Sensed that those apartment walls, their white paint turned gold by the gentle light, closing in on me, prepared my tomb. The air, scented with that delicate potpourri and rich stock and paprika, tinged with that foul, sour bite of the decaying meat beyond the door, felt heavy in my lungs, threatened to strangle me from the inside. The clatter of my fork against the ceramic thundered in my ear, deafening. In the corners of the room I felt the shadow hiding behind the light, eager to retake their eminent domain. I knew the routine. After dinner we'd settle in the lounge, watch a show or a movie, cover the couch with the spare bed sheets, say our goodnights. It was the same every time I visited. A familiar pattern, expected, welcomed, source of comfort. Tonight, it was little more than a painful wait before an inevitable execution. Had I known what I would witness that night, I'm sure my heart would have failed out of fear right then and there. That painful, heavy atmosphere lasted hours until, at last, Adam tired of the show we had chosen and prepared the couch for me. I saw in his face that terrible gleam of anticipation and glee in his face. At the time, it seemed antithetical to the scene set by the macabre offerings at his door, set by the shadow in the tree below his apartment window. It horrifies me now that I feel the same glee as I wait, the meat rotting at my door, for that blessed and terrible night. That horrific feeling spreads. Every time I look back on those memories, I experience less that sense of fear and panic, more that hateful rapture. Even as I now transcribe my experiences for the sake of posterity, I feel that gut-wrenching turn of my emotions. I feel that lie blooming, strangling my memories, telling me that the rot smelled sweet, that the flesh at the door had tempted me, that the flies had sung. Before he turned out the lights, surrendering the room to the darkness, Adam left me words of assurance and a warning. It'll come some time in the night. Do not fear, the offerings at the door will be sufficient to appease it. I only advise that when you hear it coming, you stay still. Let it look at you. Let it speak to you. Do not flee. Do not leave the apartment. Let it know you. I promise. It is for your best interests. Without a word more, he killed the lights. Before my eyes adjusted to the darkness, all I could see was the cold glow of Adam's eyes, before they too vanished into the dark. I cannot say for certain how much time passed in the darkness. An hour, an eternity, what felt like an endless expanse of heavy time spent staring at the ceiling, the shimmer of the city lights below projecting a dim light show, the agonizing, gnawing pain of my anxiety gripping my heart. My mind refused the offer of sleep, forced my eyes to remain open despite the heaviness of my eyelids. Thoughts raced and collided in my head, endless questions without answers, endless waking dreams of shadows and long teeth. The smell of the meat outside crawled into my nose and died there. The flies droned in tune with the ringing in my ears. I waited. The wind picked up, a moaning gale, buffeting the windows. Creaking branches tapped on the glass, their silhouettes cast on the roof of the ceiling above me. I watched them flail, listened to the wind howl, and a chill clutched my spine, realization striking me with the force of lightning. We're too high up for branches to reach the window. With a jolt, I turned to face that window, the blankets twisting and constricting around me, only just in time to see a hand disappear at the upper edge of the window, its taloned fingers dancing against the glass. Don't move, don't flee, don't move, don't flee, I whispered to myself between gasping breaths, my heart creeping up my throat. In the underbelly of the wind, I caught the clamor of many wings and snipping beaks and hoarse croaks. Half-seen fluttering shapes cast shadows on the night sky. Crows, I thought at first glance. But the dull glow of the streetlights below caught on the shadowed birds' teeth, on the strips of darkness flailing from their overgrown wings. Something moved among them, floating, its hulking shape ever shifting in the storm of feathers. Don't move, don't flee, don't move, don't flee. My tongue scraped dry against the roof of my mouth, my words pitiful and dark. It passed the window, floating upward, and stillness returned to the dark. Silence returned, the wind stilled. Time itself died, and in that hollow eternity I waited, my breath raw in my throat, my eyes burning, tears of fear searing my cheeks. Don't move, don't flee, don't move, don't flee. The words caught against my jagged sobs, echoed in the stillness. Cries of delight, cries of terror muffled by who knows how many floors, punctuated the silence. I dared not peel my eyes from the window, even as the dull clip of heavy footfalls trickled from the ceiling above, even as I heard the moist rip of flesh pulling from bone, even as I heard the liquid, choking groans of agony from someone above me, someone whose offering had not been sufficient. Don't move, I cried. The heavy footsteps fading, then growing louder, then vanishing, replaced by the flick of the latch to the door of Adam's apartment. and the creak of its hinges. I felt it as it entered the apartment. An ancient hunger, twisted, cruel, a hunger that had prowled hollow places that starlight avoided for longer than there had been things alive to eat, that desired not just satiety, but also the pain its hunger caused to others, that as much as it wished to eat, it wished more to spread that unfathomable emptiness inside it, to share its hunger. I turned, lay on my back, shivering, my eyes resting upon the crest of the leather couch. One by one, taloned fingers crawled into view, puncturing the leather. And then I saw its face, a mockery of a human face, far too long, far too narrow. Owl's eyes glowed from massive lidless sockets, wide and piercing. Ragged feathers grew in place of hair, rustling in the dark. Its lips were pursed, narrow, a tiny line, unmoving. Yet still I heard its voice, creaking, grating, echoing in my mind, a sound older than stars. In the night it whispered to me. It told me its name. And at that name's bidding I felt a violent, crushing hunger deep in my stomach, a yawning pit of emptiness, an unquenchable yearning. My fear vanished. I licked the dryness from the front of my teeth, caught the delectable remnants of blood that remained from where I flossed too hard that evening. From behind the couch came a third hand, a fourth, a fifth, feathers and meat dangling from arms that consumed the light, fly-speckled masses of rotting flesh dangling from its talons. I craved it more than anything. I felt my arms reach for its offering, beyond my power to control. That sweet stench of it, that glistening sheen of it, that sour, iron, fatty weight of it against my tongue, the tickle of flies crawling on the back of my teeth, the flat line of its mouth twisted in a horrid grin, needle-sharp teeth glowing in the half-light from the window. My consciousness tumbled into its wide pupils, into that pit of raw, malicious hunger, into that avaricious emptiness. And then I woke, to dappled sunlight playing against my face, to the convivial whisper of the breeze from the open window of my own apartment. I lay in shock, the warmth of my heavy blanket smothering, the uncomfortable dampness of sweat-drenched clothes against my skin. The faintest taste of blood, of putrid fat, lingered on my tongue. I'm not sure how long I lay there, my mind reeling, my heart still pounding. My body ached, nausea and hunger vying for dominance in my stomach. In the corners of my hearing, that awful name still echoed, digging into my consciousness with an unsettling ravenousness until the sunlight dispelled it. I wanted to say it was a dream, to deny that name, that feeling, those images that tormented me. But a dream could not explain the time that had slipped past my fingers. A dream could not explain the uncountable messages on my phone from work, from appointments, from meetings I had missed over the course of 48 hours. That heart-crushing panic I felt in that moment, trying to retrace my steps, draw up memories from the lost days. I don't think I can put it to words. I saw my last message from 2 days ago, my message from Adam, telling him I had arrived. I tried to reach out, innumerable texts, uncountable calls, all with no response. In the end, I compelled myself to walk over, to see him in person again in the high-story apartments. When I arrived, I could only stare in disbelief at the heavy chains blocking the front entrance, rusted in place. Vines, ivy, creeping greenery had already begun to reclaim the building. Dust and mold below the windows gave the impression of mascara-stained tear streaks, as if the apartments themselves mourned the fate of their tenants. Plywood boards and torn sheets covered most of the windows, but some uncovered ones remained, the shadows within them filled with malevolent hunger that sent a chill down my spine. In that darkness, I swore I saw the faint glint of wide eyes and sharp teeth. When I called them, the city administration told me the high-story apartments had been condemned for months, since before I returned from my trip to Paris. I descended into fits of maddened research. I found news articles, disbelief glazing over my eyes as I read the reports of missing persons in the building. As I read of an in-depth investigation into the complex, I was called off when 6 police officers entered the building and never came out. I never visited the high-story apartments again. I never contacted Adam. In the passing months, I followed the news with dismay as, one by one, the other apartment complexes in the area were reported abandoned or condemned. And then the crows began to congregate outside my window. My neighbors believe me mad. You won't believe the scene they've made. Their insulting letters, their venomous glares as they pass me in the hallway to the elevator, their blatant disregard for my property, defacing my door, clearing the offerings I have a right to display on my doorstep. The landlord has threatened eviction. The family across the halls threatened to have me dragged away by the cops. They complain about the smell, about the flies that gather around the hoops of the intestines, about the blood that has stained the hallway carpet. What do I care? No matter how many times they clean up my offerings, I'll put them back up, regardless of the expense. Time is soon coming where they will learn why I apply such devotion to this madness. It followed me. I know it. It followed me from Adam's place, from the high-story apartments. Why it chose me, I don't know. Perhaps it chose others before, others who balked at leaving the offerings. In hindsight, I see it was a damned if I do, damned if I don't sort of situation I found myself in. A steady, quiet infection of our city. Had Adam not reached out to me, implored me to come visit, I may have found myself dead by now. Yet, by accepting his invitation, I fear I have offered myself up to something far slower. Far more insidious damnation. I can feel the ache in my teeth, the unpleasant gnawing hunger in my stomach when I smell the rotting meat at my doorstep. The crows flock in greater numbers by the day, its messengers, its harbingers. They wait with a malevolent patience and eerie stillness, crowding the power lines, rapping at my window with their beaks. Sometimes when I turn to see them, I see not their keen eyes and obsidian wings, but those long, taloned fingers. It'll come soon, and my neighbors, who refuse to follow my example, will be its feast. And as it cracks their living bones and tears into their warm flesh, they will hear its name. And that is, he wouldn't say its name. My newest short cosmic horror story. Like I said at the beginning, this probably won't be coming out for a while. I just kind of wanted to throw it out there for a fun live debut for my 666th post. Definitely a long one. I'm sure you heard my cats just hooting and hollering this whole time while I was trying to tell this story, so I hope you found that amusing as well. And so, yeah, just to wrap it up, thank you everybody who just stopped by and said hello and listens to however much you listened to. I'm going to go ahead and read off the people who won the giveaway right now. There's 5 people who will be getting a signed copy of my book or another book of equivalent value. That is Dr. K. Author, Killers and Demons, Nikki My Reading Spot, AC Crown, and Zan Francisco. So thank you to all of you who left a comment on my giveaway post. And I think, that should do it. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I know I've got a bit more to do with this story, but if you've listened to this, just maybe go ahead and let me know. Do you think I can go ahead and publish this as a standalone story, or should I wait for the full collection that it is going to be belonging to, that I am currently working on? So go ahead and post in the comments what you think. Let me know how you thought of it, whether you think it should be its own thing or if it should wait. And thank you for joining me. Happy 666th post. Happy Autism Awareness Month starting day and all of that. And I will see you all next time I choose to go live. I hope you have a really great rest of your day. Right, see you later.